What is the second leading danger that causes retirees to outlive their money? This is the second of three reasons or dangers why most retirees outlive their money. Get ready. This is going to surprise you, especially how big of an impact this will be right now. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for nearly 5 decades. I started in 1974, and I've been helping people prepare for a comfortable retirement. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans, I feel, are duped into putting money into traditional IRAs and 401ks with pre-tax dollars, being told that they'll likely be in a lower tax bracket when they retire, and just put your money in the market. The market will always bounce back. Well, by the time they hit retirement, they have some rude awakenings, okay? I talked in the first of this 3-part episode, this is part 2, about the negative impact of taxes, okay? Most people are shocked about how much they're gonna pay in tax. They thought they were gonna be in a lower tax bracket. This is part 2, and it's the second leading danger that causes most retirees to outlive their money, which is sometimes referred to as a hidden tax. So, danger number 2, inflation. Inflation affects everyone, and in my opinion, will double the cost of living in less than 5 years. I'm going to prove this to you. A lot of people don't understand the negative impact of inflation, especially right now. And it happens because of the irresponsible spending and the printing of money, which the government has been printing money, from what I understand, 5 times what it was previously. And so you can't just print money. Show me any country in the history of planet Earth that solved their government spending by printing more money where that turned out good. And we're now worse than it's ever been. Okay, so let's talk about inflation, because this is going to cause a lot of people to outlive their money maybe in 5 or 10 years after retiring, or they're going to have to go back to work. So inflation, we didn't really have a lot of people paying attention to this until after COVID-19 sort of hit hard for the first year. And in the spring of 2021, I remember CNBC and Barron's and Fox Business and Bloomberg and Forbes and New York Times and MarketWatch. They all were like, oh, inflation for the first time in years has exceeded 3%. And it was, 4.2%. And I just laughed, because I know that it's smoke and mirrors. The real rate of inflation was about triple that. And yet, this is what they report inflation was. It's called the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. Okay. Now, I began in 1974. Shortly after that, Jimmy Carter got in, and Jimmy Carter is responsible where we had double-digit inflation. I remember when inflation went to 10%, my clients were able to earn 15.5% tax-free. When inflation was 10, because of what I'm going to show you here. You have to link your returns you're earning to the things that inflate. A lot of financial advisors don't know how to do that. Okay. So when I saw this, I just sort of laughed. Why? Well, here's why. A lot of Americans don't realize that back in the 1980s, the federal government said, we can't afford to pay Social Security recipients the actual increase in inflation, the cost of living. We can't afford to give them, 10, 12, 15% raises. We need to limit this. So they want to change the definition or how they calculate it. If you've noticed, that's what government does. They change definitions to meet their standard. And this is why recently, as of the recording of this episode, all they did was basically change this big spending package and called it the Inflation Reduction Act. And everybody goes, oh, okay, we're for that. And of course, many Congress people voted for that because they changed the name. And most savvy people go, this is not going to reduce inflation. Well, folks, back in the 1980s, all the way from 1981 to 2021, this is a 40-year period, after they changed, the government basically changed comparing the same basket of goods to the identical basket of goods, the cost, the price, 1 year later, apples to apples. They changed it from apples to oranges, so to speak. So basically, they can compare the price of an 8-ounce filet mignon steak last year to 8 ounces of hamburger this year if they want. And so this red line shows what the government said the inflation rate was under the CPI based upon how they chose to report it. The blue line shows what the real cost of living increase was, and it was about triple. So when they said inflation was 4, I went 12. Later on, they thumped themselves on the chest and said, we're going to give Social Security recipients a 5.8% increase. It was actually over 15%. And then in 2022, they said, oh, inflation's 9%. Well, it's more like 27%, and most Americans do the math. I mean, they go to the gas pump and go, this is up double, even more. They look at the price of used cars. They look at the groceries and eggs and meat, and they look at homes, and they go, this is 20, 30% more, not 9% more. Yeah, people who understand economics get it. They don't just believe what somebody tells them. So this is from 2005 until 2021. You see the big difference between what they report inflation and what the actual inflation rate is. Okay, so it's smoke and mirrors. This is why for years I've had an acronym, T.I.M.E. I love protecting people like you from the negative impact of taxes, inflation, market volatility, economic uncertainty. And I do that by maintaining laser focus with their money. Laser is also an acronym that stands for Liquid Asset Safely Earning Returns. In fact, it's the title of our most recent best-selling book. We just printed the 8th edition, and we're sending out thousands of these. I don't want you to miss out, so stay with me to the end, and I'm going to show you how you can claim your free copy of this book. Now, folks, let me just teach you something about inflation. We're going to use simple rule of 72 math. What's rule of 72? Most people think, well, okay, if you take the interest rate you're earning on money, it will tell you how fast your money will double. Now, I'm going to use 7.2% because my favorite vehicle, the laser fund, in the worst decade since the Great Depression, 2000 to 2010, people earned 7.23%. $1 million doubled to $2 million in a laser fund, tax-free. Whereas most people in America, their million was still only worth $630,000 at the end of 2010. Now, at 7.2%, it means that your money's going to double every 10 years, 7.2 into 72. If you started out with $125,000, one lump sum, it would double to $250 in 10 years, $500 and by the 20th year, and $1 million. So let's say you did this. I've had many clients who have done this, and they have $1 million nest egg. So this is what most retirees think. They have $1 million nest egg earning 7.2%. So you theoretically ought to be able to pull out $72,000 without depleting principal, right? You pull out 72 and you owe $24,000 in tax in a 33% combined federal state income tax bracket. You pay $24,000 or a third in tax, you only have $48,000 a year, which is $4,000 a month to buy gas, groceries, prescriptions, golf green fees. And you go, ugh. Well, if I really tighten my belt, maybe I can get by on $4,000 a month. Well, let's use the rule of 72 to calculate inflation. It's really easy. Let's say inflation averages 5%. 5 into 72 is 14.4. The cost of living will double in less than 15 years. So if you could get by on $4,000 a month when you first retired, in less than 15 years, that $4,000 will only buy what $2,000 buys today. That's called purchasing power. Or you will need to have $8,000 a month in order to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that $4,000 a month buys today. That would require you pull out twice as much money, and your $1 million nest egg will be gone in less than 11 years. Okay? Now that's just inflation, let alone taxes. Now, folks, if you live 30 years, which some retirees, between the husband and wife, one of you might make it to age 95 if you retired at age 65, or age 90 if you retired at age 60. That means you're going to need $16,000 a month to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that 4,000 a month buys today. That's at 5% inflation. What have I been talking about? At 7.2% inflation, it doubles every 10 years. At 10% inflation, it doubles every 7.2 years. At 12% every 6 years. Inflation has been over 15. At 15% divided into 72, the cost of living will double in 4.8 years. Yep. You're going to need twice as much money in less than 5 years from now. And it's not going to get any better. They can't correct that just like that. And so you're going to need twice as much money, which means you're going to have to pull out double in order to net the same amount because of inflation, that the government has been spending money, printing it, and that's what causes inflation. And that's why so many politicians don't even understand economics. So folks, instead of deferring in IRAs or 401ks and deferring the tax, what I've been talking about, that's just increased taxes. That's the first danger. But even if you accumulate your money and it's tax-free, if you don't have a strategy where you link your returns to the things that inflate, you may outlive your money. That's why I've often talked about 4 phases of retirement planning. The contribution phase that overlaps the accumulation with growth, hopefully on your money. And then when you go to distribute the money, and then when you die, anything that's transferred. Most people are crawling around this racetrack. We call it the $1 Million Dash. And they contribute after-tax money into banks and credit unions and mutual funds. They pay tax every year on the interest and dividends. That's taxes earned. They pay taxes on any gains, and it's taxed when you die. It's the worst way to save and the most common way people save. If you put after-tax money into a tax-deferred annuity, let's say, you pay after-tax contributions, and then when you start taking out income, it's taxed LIFO, last in, first out. The last money you're earning, the interest is the first money coming out. You only have one green circle. And so rather than do that, I would recommend that you understand that a dollar doubling to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, it will grow to $1 million if it doubles 20 times, if it's tax-free. But if you had that dollar doubling to $2, you pay tax in a 25% bracket, you only have $1.75. That doubles to $3.50, you only have $3.06. You'll only have $72,000 instead of $1 million. In a 33% bracket, which most people are in, you'll only have $27,000 instead of $1 million. Okay, this is why most people will outlive their money. But if you thump yourself on the chest and say, oh, I have my money in a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, well, what's happening here is you're saying, well, I have, instead of no green circles or one green circle, I have 2 green circles. I get to contribute pre-tax dollars. I get a tax break on the contribution and the accumulation. But then you agree to pay tax, okay? And again, if you watched my first episode in this 3-part series, you're not going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire if you save very much. So what my suggestion is you contribute after-tax dollars into a vehicle that allows you to accumulate your money tax-free, and then you can access money tax-free. And when you die, it blossoms and transfers tax-free. You may think I'm talking about a Roth. No, I've never owned a Roth, and I never will. An MFTA 101A alternative, that's a section of the Internal Revenue Code that has been around for over a century that allows me and can allow you to accumulate your money totally tax-free. You can access it tax-free, and when you die, it blossoms. If I died tomorrow, every million I might have here would blossom to about $2.5 million and transfer to my wife. There's not a Roth around that'll do that, okay? And I don't have to pay for that. It's paid for with otherwise payable tax most people pay down here. So folks, in my various books and strategies, I show people how you can actually resurrect deductions indirectly, and you can end up with 4 green circles. That's not what this episode is about. You can watch other ones where we've actually helped people do this. The point is this: I want to help you have at least 3 or 4 green circles. So the second of the 3 biggest dangers is inflation. And my suggestion is that you link your returns to the things that inflate. Because when we experience inflation, I don't like inflation any more than you, but it doesn't hurt me. I sort of come along for the ride. Back in 1980, when inflation was 10, my clients were earning 15 and a half. Last year, as of the recording of this episode, inflation was well over 15. Many of our clients locked in gains last year of 25%, 61%, and even 158%. You can see and learn how in our updated version of this book that I want to gift you. Here's how you claim your free copy of this. You simply go to laserfund.com, L-E-S-E-R fund.com, click on the link below, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that, and I'll pay for the book. And I'll fire out a hard copy to you. There's options there if you would like to also listen and learn or watch and learn. Check out some of the educational webinars we teach that are free. And you can even schedule an appointment to talk to an IUL specialist to see how a laser fund could be designed in your particular set of circumstances. But this is really about you and your brighter future. You'll see how the laser fund eliminates the three biggest dangers that cause most retirees to outlive your money, and you will be immune. You'll eliminate those dangers.